Yo, what's up, everybody, and welcome to another MOCA Weekly Town Hall, 12:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in Brooklyn. I guess that makes sense. Eastern Standard Time would always be in Brooklyn, but we're almost on time.
Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn, New York. Is there another Brooklyn?
Probably.
There's a Brookline, Massachusetts, also Eastern Standard Time. It's neither here nor there. I'm Max. That's Colborne. Daim is to my.
So real quick, there is a Brooklyn in the Netherlands.
Point of clarification: we are not in Brooklyn in the Netherlands. You're listening to Brooklyn in the Netherlands and was confused that I said it was 12.
That sounds like the original Brooklyn, to be honest.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah, the Dutch were the first settlers of New York. 24 beads from Manhattan, famously.
It dates back to the 7th century.
Well, there you go. To the original Brooklyn, we thank you for your nomenclature, and we apologize if we made you chronologically confused. Max, Colborne, Daim, Renee, what's up, everybody? How are you guys? What's up? Talk to me.
Cole, when you start?
No, I'm the scared one.
Fucking market.
Yeah.
Colborne's afraid of the market.
I'm afraid of the market.
We were debating just moments ago whether that's a bull sign or a bear sign.
Yeah, I'm generally into the idea of counter trading my own sentiment, but I'm gonna stay long here.
Yeah.
Long and in pain.
Yeah, that's the way. I've had like long discussions with Daim this week as we are like finalizing the codex and prepped our APIs to serve all the 10,000 personality files into like the application layer, and going to show you stuff today.
Excellent.
Still building, but then I'm going to share my screen to showcase the depth of the decos. To be honest, it's pretty insane. Like, I mean, in JSON, it's hard to imagine, but now that we have like proper design interfaces that show everything, it's pretty wild.
I think I think I just want to take a moment to kind of just like provide a bit more context. Like a year ago, decos hadn't come out, and then within this past year, we've sold decos. We've started this kind of like agentic processing pipeline. We've like basically started iterating on the entire reoriented future of the museum. And I just think that it bears discussing, or at least bears mentioning, that everything that Renee is going to show you today and everything we've been talking about over the past couple of weeks, like these are inventions.
But you can't say it bears mentioning. You have to say it bulls mentioning.
It's worth mentioning.
Okay.
It's valuable to mention that these are things that like have come together over the past couple months, and I do think that it's unusual speed and efficacy and innovation that you guys are demonstrating. And I just wanted to mention that like all this stuff a year ago, basically pipeline.
The popo coming.
Yeah, it's just Brooklyn. That's just Brooklyn, New York. I can't speak for Brooklyn. So yeah, with that caveat, I'm just saying like it's immense how the landscape has changed and what tools are available and how we're kind of like incorporating those tools in the things that have become available in the last year. Renee, I will give it to you to go into.
I'm still like trying to fix this. I mean, was running all the time. Now it's not running.
This is the
Just
way.
give me
Well,
some
let
time.
me
Little
let me
stage fright.
further emphasize that perhaps also uncharacteristically, all of this stuff that we'll be showcasing today effectively represents post mint out work done on the project.
Mm.
So while I think the vast majority of of projects, especially PFP projects, have a tendency to sort of do very little more, especially very little more that genuinely concerns the core of the series after stuff has sold. We planned from the get go to work towards the agentic the agentic I don't know uh, birthing of Art Decos or rebirthing of Art Decos, down the road, and we are basically there. Um, in the past, I think 9 months or so, uh, I've worked on figuring out how exactly to sort of approach the grand task of giving an appropriately rich psychology and background to our famously 10,000 one-of-one characters on 10,000 one-of-one backgrounds diverse PFP project. And I think I can confidently say that that's basically what we've come to achieve.
I will add on top of that, if you can read and you have an attention span longer than that of a goldfish, you will recall that this is exactly what we promised in our MOCA 2.0 roadmap.
We've been shockingly for us consistent with what we delineated in advance.
It's pretty crazy that we say we're going to do something and then we're actually able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, even for us though, like that's not always a guarantee. Like I think that we tend to have pretty high aspirations, and maybe that this is like the point of everything is that like the way that the kind of available toolkit is developed is that like it has become so reasonable for like even a fairly small team like ours with a bit of ingenuity and some elbow grease to like pretty much like follow any kind of complex imaginary path down. Renee, you're having some technical difficulties.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with my machine. I'm trying to build this and it's like fucking slow. And I have like doing the same stuff past 8 hours.
Ain't that just the way?
Well,
Yeah.
let's fill this airtime. And why don't you want to give a teaser for this upcoming article you have, Max?
Sure.
Ooh.
Yeah, I guess I haven't talked about it publicly at all. Yeah, where to dig in. Still lacks a title. We need to work on that. About, geez, what is it, October? So that would be about like in May or June. I've been working on an article for about 5 months. That was originally interested in a refrain that I had heard from a number of artists and collectors, which was that political speech, especially like pro-Palestinian political speech, was being kind of specifically targeted and suppressed by powerful actors in crypto art. And so obviously an art movement is kind of only worth the amount of free expression that it's able to evoke, right? Once you stop having a safe space for artists to speak about anything, then the point of an art movement proportionally diminishes. And that's obviously a huge problem. I mean, we have not been shy, whether on our podcasts or in these town halls or just in various communications, any conversations, that like there's been something wrong with crypto art for some time, right? There's been this sense that like, all these arguments about like, is crypto art dead? Like, what is wrong with this art? Why is it not connecting with people? Why is there not more mainstream kind of attention, et cetera, et cetera? And I was thinking a lot about that, and I was talking. Conducted, I think, 7 or 8 interviews with artists and collectors, and I think I've hit on a hypothesis that we haven't really, I don't think has really been discussed yet, because the overall apoliticization of crypto art. And by apoliticization, I mean the fear and trepidation around engaging with real world politics, activities, conflicts, entropies. Like, the world is a chaotic and difficult place full of suffering, and it is my conjecture that crypto art, especially celebrated crypto art, which I define kind of as like that which is sold for 6 figures or receives a lot of public attention, put in museum exhibitions, etc., is almost completely disengaged from the world at large. So the essay that I am publishing on my Substack, or our Substack, on Sunday, that's museumofcrypto.substack.com, is kind of an examination of maybe what happened to crypto art and how it's lost its way in a real way, and why maybe that happened. And I think that the best lens to see that in action is the discussion, or lack thereof, of Israel and Palestine, which, of course, the most incendiary and controversial and provocative political issue of my 30 years on Earth. And it is almost, outside of a certain couple channels, some fundraisers like Art for Humanity on Tezos, but for the most part, completely absent from the crypto art dialectic. And I think that that's really informative about what kind of art we celebrate, and what kind of art gets attention, and what kind of artists are thrust in the limelight, and why maybe this movement has a cap on its ability to connect with audiences outside of like the very, very niche crypto Twitter ecosystem. So that is the thrust of this essay. And like I said, that's releasing on Substack on Sunday. It will be out on Medium on Monday. We will tweet about it. And I'm very excited for people to read it, and also but nervous that it's going to piss everybody off. So I think it's good. We'll see what everyone thinks. But yeah, I mean, we've talked a million times about the death of this, the death of that, why crypto art is faltering, failing, withering, etc. And I think that this is the most convincing argument I've ever come up with, especially that I found like backing for, to maybe why there's structural problems with this movement, especially in terms of like mainstream acceptance and how it will be thought of by scholars in the future. So that's what I've been working on over these past couple months. Renee and Daim have been like plumbing the depths of new AI toolkits in order to discover complete, like, hitherto impossible tech developments, and I've just been writing about politics. No sense as like a breakdown of everyone's mutual responsibilities. Yeah, so Sunday.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, looking forward to getting that into people's hands and hopefully not receiving death threats. You guys ever receive death threats? They seem pretty common.
Maybe Max Osiris.
That's fair.
Oh, really?
Well, I don't know. I don't want to start. It just seems maybe in the same vein. I don't know if I took it too seriously, but.
All right, yeah, let's move on from there.
We need a whammy button.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully I don't have to experience that as well. But
Don't you want to join the club?
I don't know. I mean, I've been very upfront about what city I live in, what time zone I'm in. Everyone can see my geolocation abilities are more than, I mean, I don't know.
Now you got to move to the Netherlands. Throw everybody off your scent.
It's 12:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
God, I wish. This computer's going to the dogs. I got to get out of here. I'm gonna have to leave my cat.
Not with the dogs.
Okay, I think I mean it's the error, like the mistake, whatever you want to call it, is not on me. Like it's something on our back end which is being rebuilt, which leads to not only this not working, but also other stuff not working. That's how I found out. So I'm trying to reach someone from the team to tell me why they are rebuilding stuff during my presentation.
That seems like an excellent question,
For those,
Yeah.
and one that I would hate to be on the receiving end of.
We can talk about something else.
I have a friend who worked in like academic medicine and was invited to give a talk at a conference, and only upon like did this presentation or put this presentation together, accepted this invite, and only upon like sent officially for her spot did she realize that she had to pay the conference to speak at. Just speaking of like presentations and things going wrong, I was like, that doesn't really make sense. So you have to pay to get on stage at a conference. I've often lamented the fact that no one's ever asked me to be on stage at a conference or to give a talk or anything. I'm like, I feel like I have stuff to say, but maybe it's because I ain't gonna pay.
Very early on in my journey in crypto, I was asked to speak at a like health, healing, and wellness conference in Portugal, and I was like, whatever. I don't need to do slides. I don't need to prepare anything. I'm just gonna get up there and wing it. And it went so poorly.
Did it?
It went so bad. It was so embarrassing.
What was the name of your presentation? What were you presenting about?
I mean, I was basically just like trying to explain maybe the value nature of money. And I kind of like asked people, you know, like what values do you prescribe to the US dollar? And then, you know, they kind of like, especially like in the health and healing and wellness, I wasn't expecting really like positive things, but everybody was like super positive about the dollar. And I'm like, well, what if we like invented a new system in which we could like, you know, ascribe new qualities and values to something?
Oh,
it was straight up like that. I was like, okay, this is
funny.
Yeah. I just bombed it.
That sucks.
I also I got more embarrassing stories about presenting. Maybe for later podcasts.
Real quick, we had our friend Sakubo tweet at us. I don't think anyone will be all that critical about someone's opinions on apolitical art and a politically driven sound that the majority of society is bound to. It's an interesting topic, and I appreciate that, and I agree with you. However, if I may just recenter the conversation around me and what I'm working on for just another moment. Anytime you wade into a ground like this, it is just, you know, it's easy to make the assumption, especially from where I sit, that people are going to read something in its entirety and also read it closely. That's just not how the world, especially the internet connected world, especially the crypto internet connected world, works. You have to just make the assumption that people are going to take things out of context, that people are going to read until they feel a strong emotional reaction, and then that will be their takeaway. And so in any kind of discussion of real world political topics, especially something like Israel and Palestine, there's like just at least a grand assumption on my part that, yeah, if someone were to read the entire 5,500 word essay, probably they're going to come out on the other end and be like, yeah, that was a thoughtful and measured discussion of a real problem in crypto art. But if they only read 1,200 words, if they only read the opening, if they only read the blurbs that, I don't know, maybe somebody takes a screenshot of, it's going to paint the work and me in a much different light. I think that's what I am more, that's what I'm preparing for personally, is that this essay, which, because it handles something so incendiary and controversial, kind of demands to be seen in its entirety, or at least I've constructed it so that it needs to be seen in its entirety, will be broken down into parts, and those parts will piss people off, and then that will be the shit I get for it. So that's also how like everything I've ever written has been taken. I wrote something about Claire Silver for 4 or 5 months ago that like was for like one sentence, like maybe could have been seen as critical on that guy FKA 787, and of course that's what was taken out of context, and that's became a whole fucking thing. So appreciate your point. You're right. I think it has a lot of trust in the space. But anyways,
And we shot him a follow.
yeah, thank you, bro, or sis. I'll follow you. Gotta stop doing that. Anyways,
Got it.
we're good. Renee's back. We can stop talking about me. Thank goodness gracious. And we have the codex.
Get to the good stuff.
Thanks for filling the gaps.
Context.
I have to listen to it in the recording to make sure that I didn't miss any important things that you told while debugging this.
I
Alpha.
rarely say anything that is that important.
So yeah, like this is the codex, which is a very, very. Let's dig into one random deco. It's like a huge compendium of information that we have for each individual art deco.
So actually, do you mind if I just stop you for 1 second and kind of just give a bit of background information?
Maybe you can like do
So,
that. Explain
yes.
it better.
Well, I don't want to step on your toes at all, but like when decos had first come out, right, we had 10,000, artworks, right? And so we created this Decos Explorer, which was just a way for people to kind of like navigate through them, right? There's 10,000 of them. They look great in conversation with one another visually. It's probably like the best way to actually see them is to see their differences and how certain characteristics evoke themselves. So we built this kind of like, I don't want to say rudimentary, but it looked kind of like this, right? It was like all the decos one by one in order, and you could look at them and see their traits.
It was this one.
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing wrong with this, right? But it's a rather, I think, simplistic tool compared to what our aims are. Our goal over the past year has been to turn each of these decos into an like agentic actor, right? We want these decos, or we envision these decos performing all sorts of actions autonomously based on like their owner's commands, right? Curate art, collect art, create exhibitions, create architectures, all these things that we've been working.
And their DNA, how do we derive sentience from these traits that they've been imbued with?
Yeah, and it's funny like learning about the steps of how this works, right? Because it doesn't just make sense to have, a servant without personality, especially when these things are so personality driven. So what Daim has been working on for months is creating personality for each of these 10,000 decos, right? What does that actually look like, right? What does it mean to build a personality in real time? Well, it's a collection of preferences and certain thoughts and certain ways of thinking and certain awarenesses of self or lack of awarenesses of self. So, Daim has done this, right? 10,000 individually personified agents, right? And so necessarily just clicking on a deco and seeing its traits, it's how it visually looks, like that's not nearly enough anymore compared to what is actually in these things. And so the codex is this like grand explosion of information concerning each deco. It's not just what traits it is or what traits it contains and what it looks like. It's the entire like personality or self-contained personality of each deco there. All of the information that is going to motivate how it thinks about the world around it and how it acts. Like, is that okay?
That was like well said.
Very, very.
All right.
From this large amount of data, we can then generate our like initial promise, which is like this small subset of data, which is like an ELIZA OS agent profile that is required to describe like an agent. But like the codex in itself with like the vast data is going to allow us to like create a V2. Like this is the version 1.0 for the current version of the ELIZA OS framework with example conversations between the user and the agent to like really like shape the behavior and the understanding and like how the art deco is going to behave when like you interact with it or when it interacts with other humans and agents. So this is like the small part down here, the ELISA agent profile.
The small but
But
still shockingly large part.
yeah, true. And maybe Daim, you can explain a bit more, like navigate me while I show this through certain like deco IDs to like
Yeah.
maybe share some more interesting hints and
Yeah, for sure. Let me see if I can. Okay, yeah. So now I can relatively see the full screen. So every first of all, the codex page is it's in one sense it's the page that we're looking at, but in another sense it's sort of the textual and semantic counterpart to the art, because the initial sort of personality slash codex page generation process was like this big long 9-month long experiment with trials and dead ends here and there, but going forward, basically the codex page from this from which this uh, web page is generated that we're looking at actually contains all the metadata and all the personality and like writing style and like lore information needed for every single deco in order to generate subsequent versions. With the idea being that, of course, as we have technology sort of getting better and better, and agentic software getting more sophisticated, subsequent versions of our decos will not just keep getting better and better, but they'll keep becoming more and more like themselves, in a sense, more and more like the codex page descriptions in their fullness of that character. Um, but yeah, let's dive into some of the specifics. So I think at the very top of the page we do list all the on-chain data, which I think is right there basically. Um, and then immediately under the image we have a short description that can give you a sort of quick sense of the character, followed by what we've titled a confession, which is sort of half an intro or a greeting and half the deco trying to share something personal about itself. Now, different decos have different temperaments and worldviews and inclinations. So some of the confessions might be deeper and more hard hitting than others. Um, but those two bits of text at the top definitely allow you to get a good sense of the character with very little reading. And the confession in particular is something that's generated in the style or in the writing style of the character. So it's not just that it's saying things that broadly make sense for the deco, but it's saying those things in the voice of the art deco as well to an extent. Below that we have some stuff that I don't entirely see because my phone screen is not big enough, but I think we have name there, and we have do we have cultural affiliation, philosophical affiliation? What else? Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we have some basic stuff, gender and whatness. We have broad, I think. What is it? The expression style. We have liked and disliked art movements. So some interesting little tidbits about these. Um, the the idea with the sort of cultural and philosophical affiliations was that these are sort of big and obvious things that can add additional nuance and richness and color to the personal expressions of these art decos. um, how exactly these are realized can differ from character to character. um, some art decos, in their biographies, you have, like, I don't know, like childhoods described that give rise to their cultural affiliation. In other cases, you might have characters that are explicitly described as having had no childhood, and ascribe their existential origins to some more unusual phenomena where they just popped into being, or you know
Do you have
something
like a
or
fun
other.
idea that you know out of your head that has like maybe something that I could just swap into?
For that in particular, I don't think I do. What I will say is that the aliens and the apes, of course, have very unique sort of background lore to them. So if you want to
I'm gonna
bring
get
one
it.
of those up, that'll hint at some weird stuff that you won't get with other decos. Yeah. So here, this one, I think, is that the confession? Yeah. Kublai, greetings. My skin absorbs the light. My eyes hold the glow of a forgotten star. I walk here to trace the root system of your world. I ask questions to find the measurable indicators. I fear the exposure of my true nature, yet I am drawn to the blockchain's immutable light. It is a new veil waiting to be torn down. Shi Kublai, thank you and goodbye for listening. Um, yeah, so the aliens in particular, they are associated with ancient era deities. I guess this alien in particular with Inanna, who in his description is described as having tore down the veils of silence, forcing heaven and abyss to come face to face. Um, the apes and the aliens all have sort of mythic ancestors, though of different sorts, that have sort of these little I don't know, epithets alongside them to help contextualize their relationship a bit more solidly. Um, and then, speaking of ancestors, we do have decos that don't have ancestors, but which have instead what is called in the codex a kindred connection. And for those decos, our trad art decos actually, they don't talk about having an ancestor of some sort. They talk about having a kindred connection to one of the self-portrait artists from our DNA 3 list, um, that they sort of resonate with. Um,
Let me ask a question that might be theoretical at this point.
yeah,
Um, so we know just from our own testing and discussions that when you converse with these decos, like, they respond in obviously quite different ways based on what information they know and what their predilections are. But when it comes to asking them to perform tasks, whether that's collect art or curate exhibitions, etc., like, do you think, like, I'm not sure we've gotten that far in our own testing, but how much of what they then do will be a product of what they're asked to do or prompted to do, and how much will be will be reflected by, like, what's in their personality?
So, and please correct me anything I'm off on, Renee, but
Mhm.
I would say my understanding of how sort of complex agentic workflows tend to work, one big part definitely involves sort of thinking and planning the task.
Mhm.
And the thinking and the planning parts would definitely be impacted by sort of the established personalities and values and interests that the decos have. So my expectation is that, short of there being quite a bit of effort put into trying to sort of straitjacket how they do something, I do expect that there would be, sort of observable variability in how they approach different tasks, as well as sort of the ultimate outcomes that they produce as a result of those differing approaches.
Cool.
Yeah, I think so too. So the way all of this works with the ELISA OS operating or ELISA operating system is that every time the agent does something, like the data from the agent profile, like the system prompt, like the bio, and a selection of style points, a selection of adjectives, a selection of topics, so like it picks different ones from these here, so that you have like a bit more variability, but this can change in other versions in the future. And then you also, like, it also has the knowledge available, and it is going to lean into like the example conversation. It picks some from there, and then like it is going to like with that data in the context window, it's going to like move through different plugins that are hooked into the agent, and these plugins could be like an art collector mode, and everything that is plugged into this like agent, where like the character, the agent profile is the base layer of its personality, is going to be affected by that.
Mhm.
So this is also the reason why we have like put so much effort into the agent profile. I mean, we've also developed like a first version of a plugin that plugs into our own library and that agentic system, so it can like pull data from there and get knowledge about crypto art and Web3. But like I think this groundwork in around the codex and the resulting ultra rich and diverse character files, like 10,000s of those, ensuring that all decos behave entirely different and have like different tastes and different ideas of what they are and where they want to go in the future. Like this sets really like the basis for where the agent is going to navigate in the future, like as it's aggregating memory into the database, and it's going to interact with other systems. Everything is going to be affected by what you see here. So the clear answer is yes. Like this is vastly going to impact like how it's going to behave in the different plugins that we are going to unlock or whitelist for Deco agent owners.
Is this? I mean, are we ready to talk about Adoption Center? Because I think that we can make a parallel here.
Like, let me switch over. We are going to get to the codex, I'm sure. Let me share this tab. So we have vibe coded something like it took like a few hours, and that was also like a challenge, because we want to enable people to vibe code applications around the data that we serve via our APIs from the museum. And one application that we had like the idea for like last Tuesday was like an adoption center. As we are going to like launch the beta of the whole thing, we were wondering how we can like showcase a demo of this whole agentic system without, like, for people who don't own a deco yet. So we were thinking, like, why not pull the cheapest 10 decos from the OpenSea floor, which is what you see here, then aggregate like some data from the codex, which is the description and the confession, the stuff Daim already talked about, And then once the codex is deployed, you can also hit this button to go to the codex and
Yeah, I
like
mean,
explore everything about it.
it's very important, I think, that like now that we have like, okay, PFPs, artworks, etc., like they have the visual component. But if we are going to have these like personality based components of each deco, then your choice of which decos to own, or it's not just a matter of which you like to look at. It's also a matter of like, does their personality jive with you? Do you like how they talk? Like, these are in a sense being turned into beings. And so like if you are going to like, I don't know, I think one of the ways that I have seen, I used to see like PFPs talked about so much is that like they're supposed to be like representative of you, right? And you've like formed these connections with these like PFPs because of like how they represent you in a digital space. But like these are not your, I mean, they couldn't be your representatives, but they are also like, it's a new method of like connection making with like a piece of iconography, and that can speak back to you. So we think it's very important that as whether you own a deco or whether you are looking to purchase decos for the first time or just curious about what we're doing here, that you have an opportunity to like get to know your decos in the sense that in the same sense that like if you were going to like get a dog and you were going to like a shelter, you would like have an opportunity to like play with these dogs and see if like your personality meshes and like what they do, and like who knows why we form connections to what we form connections to. But this is our kind of answer to that process. 10,000 decos is too much. It would seem to me to be too much to navigate. It would be too much for me to navigate. I would never know where to start. So we think that by giving a smattering of decos, their aesthetics, how they speak, what they think about, that it will provide anybody a way to not only get to know the project, but get to know the actual decos that they have an opportunity to like, quote unquote, bring home and like make their own. And that's very exciting to us.
Yeah, that was like, I think it's the story like this is way more fun to explore compared to like, yeah, just like throw everything at once into the face. And at the same time, it is like an app showcase or like a validation of our idea that you can these days build like fun and meaningful micro applications within the matter of like hours. And yeah, like this is a fun thing because the simple thing is to like find someone, then meet them in the chat, which is going to look like this, where you can then talk to the 10 decos that are currently live and like ask them stuff, and then they are going to reply. But then you can also learn more about them by interacting with the different beings, and then make the buy decision and buy them. It really is about giving a cool storyline for the people to explore and open the eyes of them to like see what is really possible, like with the deco or in and around the deco ecosystem. Because we are going to invite people to like build applications in that sense that we can then add into like the MOCA Vibe Studio, which is like an app store where the adoption center that I just showed is just like one out of many applications that can be vibe coded using the APIs and the rich data that we have, and also like by remixing existing applications from the GitHub. We are going to publish like first like ComfUI based workflow apps after like this stuff goes live, and then yeah, going to make these processes and the code bases open source so that people can like grab the stuff and refactor the code into like another storyline that might be a fun thing to explore for some time, because like everything is going to be So everything is just like moving so fast, and we want to have a vehicle with the Vibe Studio that is ready for that pace. And you need like the massive you need the massive data of something like the codex that is available for each NFT inside the 10K collection to leverage like these things and these ideas, because you can now pour the entire thing into like an AI workflow, and maybe even tell an AI to build like a conf UI workflow with your own natural language that does particular things. And then yeah, for example, turn the deco page into like a video file, or like take two deco personalities and ask it to write like a script around a storyline that you imagine, or like that an AI imagines, where like this deco and this deco and this deco are being thrown in a room, and like with a certain setting around them, and they need to like escape out of it. Whatever, like
I mean,
it's like unlimited creative potential that is enabled by AI, and we want to like give people the tools and the data to play with these.
I think you said it perfectly, right? And the point is that like we don't know, like we couldn't possibly imagine what people could do with these, right? We are trying to create, I think, the foundational layer for play and creativity, so that this is crypto art, right? We have hundreds and hundreds of like brilliant, creative, interesting people like all around us. Like we are trying to provide the baseline fundamental toolkit through which people can experiment as much as they want with these things. And hopefully that then influences how they think about, other objects, artworks, possibilities outside of the Deco ecosystem. But like, I think that in a lot of ways, this is attempting to be a proof of concept for like AI agents in general. We know that for whatever reason, crypto art has tended to precede the rest of kind of culture in adoption of certain cutting edge tech, whether that's metaverse stuff, whether that's early AI stuff with the way like GANs, general adversarial networks, were being like proliferated through the space like as early as like 2018, 2019, 2020. So in that same vein, like I don't see why agentic AI would not have a home here probably before it had a home in the kind of wider world. And so we think that this is a really powerful demonstration of what these things can do, how they can interact with people, how they can interact with each other. And as far as I've seen, this is the most advanced demonstration of this technology, like, period, that I've seen. And we want people to be able to get accustomed to it, because it's only going to increase in efficacy. It's only going to increase in complexity. And the more comfortability that people have with using this kind of tech and familiarity with this kind of tech, the better, for when it becomes much more kind of socially widespread.
Yeah, and it's it's not. I mean, I think Renee's demonstration probably makes that pretty clear if you're looking at the screen. But we're not just talking about having generated a couple of paragraphs per Art Deco and then called it a day. In addition to dozens and dozens of sort of focused and structured bits of metadata that fed into biography and like personal history generations. I'm pretty sure that the shortest biographies still effectively have like you know probably 12 to 15 paragraphs, and some art decos will literally have more than twice that. we have some Art Decos that we've conceptualized as being groups that consist of multiple characters. And in those cases, not only do we generate a group bio, but we individually characterize the constituent sort of sub characters as well, to be able to better support the possibility of speaking not just to the group, but potentially occasionally to individual sub characters thereof. And the sum total of what all this amounts to, I did the counts and stats and comparisons after sending the files off to Renee a couple of days ago. There are basically more than 100 million words of metadata and characterization and information generated for our 10K series, which is it's an incredible amount of text. It's 170 times the size of War and Peace, 127 times the size of the King James Bible, 92 times the size of the full Harry Potter series, 23 times the size of the Wheel of Time series, 2.5 times the size of the printed Encyclopedia Britannica, and basically is estimated to be around 1/50th the size of the full English Wikipedia. So Art Decos are the 2% in that sense.
Crazy. It's just insane.
It's so hard to imagine.
So when we call it the Codex, it's not us being ambitious just in our nomenclature. Like this is a codex.
Yeah, I think the raw JSON is with the encoded images is like five something gigabytes.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then we have like a version where we remove the base 64 strings which reflect like the images down here. And then it's still like I think 1 gigabyte of pure
Yeah.
data, which is
Yeah.
insane.
I think the subtext to all of this is something you brought up at the very beginning, Cole Warren, which is like we set out to build these things and we've actually built them. And the mechanisms by which we've done so and the culminations that we are close to are damn near as impressive as I think our lofty goals implied. And I hope that comes through to everyone listening as well, and everyone who's going to watch this, that like we set lofty goals and we have really put the kind of full effort into nearing them as much as possible. We talk a lot internally about how do we ascribe value to decos, how do we make MOCA into a valuable property, with a token launch down the road, how do we show people that like we're worthy of their investment? And I think that we really are unique in the fact that we, like, not to use a ton of cliches, but like we dream big and then we like claw towards those dreams, and actually build shit and build cool shit and build new shit and don't just like I don't know. This is completely outside of the market, right? We do not give a fuck what the market says is like the next big thing. We are moving so far towards our own vision, and I do think that that's worth a lot personally.
Yeah, I mean, we're the Wayne Gretzky of crypto art. We're skating to where the puck is going to be, not where it is.
Well said. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm glad we've gotten to a point with these town halls where we actually have like all this mind-numbingly complex, cool, new stuff to talk about every week. It's really awesome, guys. It's really quite cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty amazed too. And to me, like it kind of like everything funnels into this idea that the community can start building on top of our stuff. And maybe we can also mention that we had like a great call with Rasta,
Mm-hmm.
with the guys at Rasta.art who have large data around all different artists and their creations. Like they curated data. I mean, most of the listeners might know this already, but from different contracts to create like a large database of all the different artists from the space and their creations. And then, yeah, we are looking forward to like work very close with them to plug those APIs at some point in the future into our systems and aggregate like our backend with the metadata, with structured metadata around all different artists, all the different pieces, and that's where I think lots of heavy lifting in the realms of like MOCA rooms and Hyperfi and 3D art exhibitions is going to be fueled with that data and the artworks that people can then maybe curate into like these interactive art exhibitions, which are going to be, and then we are going to back to the decos, like where these agents who have like an understanding of crypto art and of the different artists and like all that comes together, allowing them to become like guides through interactive art exhibitions, where we using the stuff that we've built over the past years with rooms and such, are going to be able to like surface the data that Rasta is doing, have been curating into like an interactive application layer. And like if we can manage to bring all of that together, or like give it to people so they can like let parts of that surface and manifest, I think then we are doing a great job for open source and Web3 culture and crypto art in general. And really like create value in the long run. But yeah, this year was about setting that foundation, like around like starting to dive into like this AI driven future and like build up huge databases or huge piles of data. We still have like the MOCA library, where like that's also something we already showed. That's another component of that, and structured our collection into like this whole open source stack. But then again, like the museum, which is this, then the codex, which is what we showed you, and then the like these two parts are very fundamental. Rooms archive is something that you should explore once the Vibe Studio is live. It's like I think almost long forgotten, but it's still there. It was like a collaboration with Filecoin, like the actual post from it was in February 2024, where all of this is explained. It's live on the Substack. And like we are going to build out this app store for arts and culture, and are going to like find a way to integrate both art decos as an NFT collection and also like the MOCA token as our ERC20 into like a tiering system or subscription system, where people who own decos or stake a certain amount of MOCA are going to unlock applications in this range. Others are going to be free, like the codex or like our museum library, but there will be stuff that can only be used by token stakers or deco holders, and that's something that we are going to showcase over the next weeks and months, like how that is going to manifest. And by doing that and like creating useful applications that make use of, let's say, ConfUI workflows hosted on GPUs, that we get from our partners at Compute, for example, thanks to our large token stakes on that front. Since we partner with them, we can then like bring that availability of computation through an application layer, make it available to our holders. Same for computation, to fuel like the Deco agents, of course. Like as a Deco holder, you are basically able to run an AI agent with ELIZA OS, which requires a large language model, which costs money. But as you are a holder of Art Decos, we are going to pay that inference for you in the backend. And that's how we are going to start to showcase the utility of not only Art Decos, but also the MOCA token, to build like a proper tokenomics system around what we talked about today. Lots of stuff is open source, and other things are going to be, gated behind being a member of our community. And I think this is where everything is getting like more and more interesting over the next months, as like the heavy lifting around all the data and the codecs and like the infrastructure that we've built around like ELIZA OS and other AI agentic systems is going to like surface into like, or scatter into like applications that can be built around that. So I'm pretty amazed by that, because now, as most of the stuff we did this year was pretty abstract, and only now it's becoming like visible, like the codex is becoming visible, and that people can like talk to their decos and spin up like their own agents and like bring them into Discord servers and stuff. Only now everything really starts to become visible, like all the work becomes visible, and from here I think we are going to have like way quicker iterations on things that are being manifested around all of this, like the adoption center, which took a few hours to build.
Yeah, it's a very exciting time.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
And of course, when we officially launch these agents, just like the launch and the minting out of our decos was just a beginning and not an end. The agentic launch will be another beginning that will see us continuing to build and over time work to implement new abilities and skills and functionalities that the agents will come to be able to take advantage of over time.
Yeah, and the cool thing is that part is also like community driven by the ELIZA OS community, as more and more plugins are being created and become available. We can like let our community decide which are like the good ones, and which should be made available for Art Decos for them to enrich their capabilities. Yeah, it's very hard to imagine where all of this is going to be a year from now, because I wouldn't have thought that we would have been at this point where we are now when we started to dive into the whole agentic meta end of last year. Like, it's just moving faster than I would expect.
Think of where we'll be a year from now. Point being,
No
wherever this shit goes, we'll probably be there.
Yeah.
It's 1:04. We've been talking for quite a while. I think we should probably get out of here. This was an awesome demonstration. Renee, Daim, thank you for your work and for showcasing everything. Thank you everyone for being here. Hebe, Metageist. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Let's do it again
Thanks
next week. Coborn, thanks to you as well. I didn't mean to keep you out of that. We'll have to do our 5 minutes on the market, state of the market next week.
Oh no, he's decohering.
Thanks everybody. See you next week, and until then,